wiggle your butt. Abundance. So here we are, we're entering the cart is open now for astrology, and it brings me straight to the conversation of abundance. Abundance, I made it up. How do we manifest? I like to call it Woman Fest because there's so many women in this circle. I just saw Becca from Arizona. Abundancing from Michigan is Jessica. Oh, there's Lena from Stockholm. Okay, so abundance. Let's first of all change the word from manifestation to womanfestation, because what I've learned is the way to manifest is by being a woman. And I don't mean that exclusively to the gender. I mean that as a principle. The feminine energy is what attracts. The male energy is what responds. It is the aggressive energy, where the female energy is the receptive energy. Just think of the sexual expression, the sexual symbolic version of something's going in and something's receiving. The female's ability in the new form of life right now is the feminine is leading. There's more women in yoga classes. There's more women in astrology classes. There's more women watching Oprah and reading magazines, and women everywhere is my favorite line. So the female principle is operative in the abundance. And it's also women that are the dancers. It's not that men can't manifest. It's not that men can't dance. It's that right now the music that's being played in the world is asking us to woman-fest through receptivity, which is so different than goal-oriented achieving things with a push or a demand or a hardship where the body's at its expense because you're pushing so hard and you don't take a break and you're working so hard you forget about self-care and you step over your own needs and you keep giving, like the mom who becomes exhausted because her children are going to school and her husband requires dinner and there's no room for her to stop and go, what about me? So the pendulum has swung from manifestation in the old form of how to set goals and stick to them at all cost and to push things through. The circle gets pushed through as a square, all of that old story. And gay boys, it's not about gay or straight. It's about the feminine principle in the name of the bun dance. Let's just do it. You do this. This is how you do the bun dance. Let's all go do the bun dance. The only way that we can woman fest in an organic fashion is by starting with the feminine principle, which is receiving. So let's talk about that. So here we are with my school. It's my best example. I didn't intentionally say to myself, well, that's not altogether true. I have a very strong manifesting male side, as all of us possibly can. And that simply means I'm on time, I'm responsible, I make sure things are done properly, I hire the right people, I keep my standards very high. It's all very male. I have high expectations from the company that we lead with Carrie and Ashley and Hoku and Chris and all the people on my team have a very high standard. We are very quick responders. We take care of things when it's required. All of that is male. The female energy is quite the opposite. It doesn't set a goal intention, although there is that requirement to say, I want to start a school. Let's be concrete. So it wasn't that I wanted to start a school. It was that I loved teaching. This is where my female started this whole program. Why am I a successful astrologer? I loved teaching. And my female side loves healing. And I have no other desire but to be of service. That's all very feminine. It comes straight out of my heart. My male side, in the name of manifesting, had high standards. So I know how to teach in bite-sized bits. I know how to make it within a reasonable price range. I know how to make sure people are paid that are working for me. You know, there's one of the things I keep thinking about in our school is if you take all 3 levels and you're a good student and you really do learn astrology, many of those students come back the next year and they teach. And within a 2-year window, you've paid yourself back. I think it's a $7,000 full commitment. Is that right, Carrie? To do all 3 levels. And then within a 2-year window, easily, you paid yourself back and then some, because once you become a certified astrologer, you get paid. So in my imaginary manifestation cycle of my male side, I wanted to create something. My female side wanted to teach desperately. She had a passion for healing. She has a passion for healing. She never stopped giving. However, the good news about my female side, very quickly after I got burnt out, I realized that I had to do self-care first. Even though it seems selfish or it seems illogical to do self-care above your productivity, but I knew that if I took care of Debra, my health, my body, my diet, my exercise, my supplements, the things that I know are required, then my energy level would be high enough that I could produce for you results that eventually would create flowers. And so while I wasn't thinking about having a fruit tree where the low-hanging fruit was going to be able to feed the masses, I was just thinking about genuinely, one, wanting to serve, and two, taking care of myself first. That's bizarre. That is completely not male. That whole story that just happened with Manafort and him having $60 million that he went through to the point of being bankrupt because his male side became so greedy and so obsessed with money, this is very male, that it took his attention off his integrity, off of his body, off of his heart, off of his right and wrong, and he now has become a victim to his male side's appetite for wanting to achieve at all costs and wanting prestige and status so he could buy an ostrich vest and jacket, whatever that was. That's such an archetype example of the male manifestation at the expense of integrity and the expense of self-care. Now let's go over to the female side. The female side's healthy version, the opposite of what I just described. That was an American stupid political example that I've been obsessed with. The female side says, here's how it went for me. I want to turn people on to astrology at all costs. I want them to learn about who they are. It's a very passionate quest and job that I have, that all I want to do is turn you on to who you are, help you fall in love with you. That was my goal. And so people have been asking me for years, what are you doing? What's your purpose? It was to bring astrology to the masses and bring it into a form where you could learn about your own personality and fall in love with you. That was my goal. So for the next 30 years, at least 5 times a year, I taught a class. And then one day, 3 or 4 years ago, I met this woman named Destiny, and I had some destiny with Destiny and some karma. And she said to me, do you want to go online and teach your course? Womanifestation. A woman appeared in my world. I had the impulse to consistently and continually serve. She had the form and the structure. I didn't. That would be unnatural for me to have gone out and learned how my male side. This is what people do. I'm going to go learn a skill set that's very unnatural to me, but it's going to provide for me the results. And even though I'm going to fit a round circle in a square hole, because I can't do structure and details the way that Carrie and Misty and Destiny can, I'm going to make myself do it. No, you guys, what you want to do is go learn your chart and find what your natural skill is and use the magnetic force field, the receptive feminine who attracts things, because I'm in love with what I'm doing. So here's how I want to frame it for you guys. You are all here with a reason. And every single one of you, there's 600 people in this room. Every single one of you has a purpose. You did not get thrown on this planet without a mission, without a chart, without a personality, and without a soul. All of you have a mission, a purpose, a chart, and a soul. Now, if you're not sophisticated enough to identify what is the mission, what was the purpose, what's the nature of your chart, and how do you get access to your soul, you're kind of running a hit and miss game. You're trying, but you're bumping into conflict, you're bumping into resistance, you're bumping into vague, because you're not distilling the clarity of the purpose, the mission, how you're going to get yourself in focus and get help to do it. Our clue as an astrologer, my clue is Saturn gives me the clue of what your life lesson is, but where I want to look for your destiny so I can help you womanifest is your midheaven. What sign is on your midheaven? And this is an advanced question for a beginner who knows nothing about astrology, but it's called the MC. When you go to astro.com, you look for the 2 letters MC. That's Latin for midheaven. And then you find out what is on the midheaven, and that's going to give you a clue about your purpose. So my midheaven is Cancer. I am the quintessential mom, quintessential feminine energy. It's not the natural way to manifest, because my feminine energy is to womanifest, which means I hold the service role. I give endlessly. I take care of you and love you. Now that seems like I could get sacrificed and taken advantage of and give too much and not have a goal and be a little vague and always respond to the others. Yes, that's true. Your midheaven gives you the indication of what flavor your career is victimized by and what the strength is. The strength of Cancer in the midheaven is I have such a strong feminine nature. And here's how I abundance. First of all, I serve. So the number one thing you want to write down is service is the first intention. That's what's been going on throughout my whole life. I want to give my gifts. That's called water. It comes through the feminine principle of the desire to give. Then comes air. I need to articulate my goal. My goal in my articulation was to serve the masses and bring to them the 4 elements in astrology in a very tangible, practical, edible, delicious way. So that was my goal. 2. 3. Now I've got to get the practical, because this is the elements. First comes the dream. I want to serve. Then comes the articulation. I want to bring astrology and the elements to the masses in chewable form. Then 3 comes, how am I going to do this? Here's the hard part. Here's the work. What's required to make my bun dance really positive? My body's got to be in health so I can dance well. I got to be able to have the music on. I got to be able to have a dance partner to play with. This is the practical part where manifestation does become male. I need to have these pieces in place in order to manifest. Okay, so the third step is earth, practicality, and being able to bring into form, like you have to have a computer, and you have to have a schedule, and you have to have a partner, and you have to have some, that's where the goals enter. But it starts off, the bun dance starts off with a pure, heartfelt intent. Then you speak it, then you put it into form, and then the results begin. And the fire cycle comes. Either you're going to say, oh my God, I did such a bad job woman festing. I attracted all the wrong people. I did this all wrong. It's always the same for everybody, Shelby. That's the funniest word, Linda. Okay, so now let's go back and review. What does the bun dance do? It starts off with a feminine principle. It's called womanifestation. You must have a compulsive, deep, passionate desire to serve, to learn. It can be whatever yours. This is a soulful urge. I want to learn this lifetime, whatever it will take. Maybe your soul's urge is, I really want adventure. I don't want to be committed to one simple goal of being married, having kids, and having a house. I want freedom. You've got to have a feminine, emotional, internal impulse that comes out of your soul. Mine is service. I would suggest everyone should be service because I think it's the shortest answer. So that's the first one, is the water requires, for abundance, you must have the water cycle, which is the dream, the emotional charge. What emotionally is your charge? What is compulsively driving your ship from the emotional place? I'd love to hear your answers. What drives you? I'm waiting to see your love, transformation, creation. Oh, I love love. Service. Beauty is the artist. That's so perfect. Helping give. Creativity. I want peace, freedom, love, 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 love. Balance. Oh my God, this is so beautiful. Justice. Connections. Okay, perfect. Caretaking, teacher, compassion, freedom, self-expression. This is so great. Opening minds. Okay, good. Look at that, you guys. Her midheaven's in Gemini and she's wanting to serve people with words. Okay, good. Wow, we got it going on right there. To help people grow spiritually. I don't know. Well, that's a great beginning. Helping others, love, creation, and balance. Driven to healing body, mind, and soul using light energy. That's the shift network. Okay, well, so that's the first cycle. The first cycle is water. You have a dream. You have a driving force that has no attachment to results. It comes with a pure energy, like peace and adventure. Service with a passion for helping animals and elderly. This is exactly what we're looking for. Okay, the midheaven for Lori's Aquarius, and she's not sure. Well, that's an air sign problem. Okay, that's why, Emily, justice and fairness is so important to you, because midheaven is Libra. Okay, that's the first cycle, is you've got, for the bun dance, you have to have a feminine, compulsive desire body to do something specific. Then comes air, which you're doing here. putting it into words, getting a mission statement, having it really articulated and repetitive. So I knew my function was to bring astrology and the 4 elements to the masses in a very digestible way that would make you excited and want you to have more. So I'm doing my ear. And I'll tell everybody and their cousin about that story because I'm willing to articulate it. Okay, step number 3 is where it gets hard. Talk about earth, rock, solid, earth. Step number 3 is where your male side comes in. So the bun dance starts with the feminine womanifestation. You've got a dream, you put words to the dream, and now you're ready to like, okay, I'm gonna work. So when Carrie tells me, Debra, you gotta write a newsletter. Or if Destiny says to me, Debra, you gotta do a webinar. Or if someone says to me, Debra, you gotta go do some readings, you gotta go do a book signing. My earth says, got it. My job has been described and my male side is on the task. I got my little hat on, I got my little briefcase, I got my little airplane, I'm flying around, let's go. That's the 3rd level is earth. If the dream isn't clear at the water level, if your soul's not driving the ship, if you can't say it out loud, it's not going to happen. Everybody jumps into the earth cycle way too fast. I'm going to build a business. I'm going to start the school. No, you've got to take your time. My sweet son is just starting to do real estate and he's so smart. He's just going to start with a small beginning in his 20s. And eventually over time, that's his dream. He wants to help people get homes and be able to do it reasonably and be able to be, that's a great goal. Then he says it out loud. Then he goes to real estate school and he goes and studies all the programs that are required and he becomes a practical, efficient, does it. You guys, the bun dance has to be in you got to do the bun dance. Malika, he loves you too. Okay, let's back up. Let's talk about astrology. Let's talk about you guys wanting to bun dance your astrology. Or let's say you're a coach, or let's say you're a yoga teacher, or let's say you're a nurse. So you go backwards and you re-identify your water before you get to the midheaven. Go backwards and re-identify what is the emotional charge that's operating in your system. That's the single most important thing. If your emotional body, like my emotional body, is so in love with teaching you, it's effortless. If your emotional body says, if your mind, let's go back to your mind, says, I want to be a famous musician. That's a great thought. That's a good idea. Let's back up. So first comes the water. You're listening to music. You're in love with music. You let yourself bask in it. You float in it. Then comes air. You start to speak it out loud. You go find your teachers and you study in the air cycle. You learn your skill. You learn your practice. Then comes earth. Okay, now you want to go get your gig. Well, in the bun dance system, as a womanifestation system, you have the simple emotional intention that began this whole process that you love music. Then you articulate it. Now you watch to see how the earth will rise to manifest. So that's what happened with our school. Essentially, that was how I manifested this whole thing. There's a wonderful book called The Timeless Way of Building. It's an old book, it's fat, it's hardcover, and it's very expensive. It's written by an architect. The way the architect built things in this particular format that he was so famous for was by not having a blueprint. He did the bun dance. He did the womanifestation. So he started off by sitting on the land with his builders. They did not have a blueprint. And they waited for the land, that emotional, soulful, intuitive urge to come forward. Then he enrolls his people, air, and speaks to them, and they talk about it, and they get super clear intellectually. And then the manifestation begins. Out of the ground, they build the form. And when I learned that system, that's how I manifested the school, womanifested it. I spent 35 years teaching. You can start by planning with your emotional body. It's not a plan, it's an emotional compulsion. I want you to activate the part of your soul who loves to give, serve, help, create. Yeah, you're getting it. Okay, so I want you to plan the emotional, compulsive, deep desire that you identified as you wrote so many beautiful things in here of how to get your emotions, your soul, your woman side, your female side in focus. So let's talk about relationships. For those of you that aren't in relationships, you're single and you're wanting to have abundance. You're wanting to attract your partner. You're wanting to attract a new friend. You're wanting to attract a job. How do you do it? You start with the dream. Do a dream board. Let it be emotional. I'm longing. Let yourself long. Write that down. I'm longing for a partner. I'm longing for a meaningful job. I'm longing for abundance. I want some money. I long to be comfortable. First things first, long, desire, be hungry for the female, honest, emotional charge. Even though it's embarrassing and it sounds dumb and you don't want to admit you want a partner because you don't believe you're going to, you got to step over all of your beliefs and go to the emotionally charged longing. Number one. Number two, say it out loud. Tell your friends. This is what, you know what I did before I met my partner? It's such a funny story. It's embarrassing. I live in Hawaii half time. It's a very small island that we're praying will not have a hurricane in the next few days. And what I did was I went on Match.com. Don't tell anybody. And on Match, it was only for 5 days. It was embarrassing and stupid, but it was my honest longing that I gave voice to, even though it was completely unnatural to my personality, to my ego, to my male side. My male side was like, you're doing what? First things first. I love that. I long for financial stability. That's the longing. Now the air cycles, you got to say it out loud. Cynthia, you got to say it out loud. I want financial stability, but I'm in debt. If you don't say it out loud and you don't get real about the storyline and you don't get the help you need, you will not get to the fire cycle and have fun.